Hey, good morning, everybody. Brad here with the Big Family Homestead. Hope you're having a blessed day wherever and whenever you're watching this Bible study. Today we're going to be in Nehemiah chapter 2. That's right. We are going to get busy here pretty soon. You're gonna see God's favor again in this whole situation with the king and Nehemiah, and he's going to get busy. So we're going to read chapter 2, then unpack it. A lot of today's understanding insight is truthfully WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get, WYSIWYG. And but it's important information, and we can still see God's providence throughout the whole thing. So we're going to read, unpack it, pray for each other. But before we do, let's scroll to the top and see who's at least in the first page of participants. Okay. Good morning to Monica Sherman, Heather, Meg, Danny, Delaney B, Tammy, Catherine, Patricia, Teresa, Tess, T. Pearson. Good morning to Amy Jo, Teresa, Ask Hermit. Finally, man, Nehemiah, we're here. Meg, Delaney B, Wendy, Amy Jo, Maddie, Thomas Pearson III, Eileen, BP Devo, and many more. Good morning to you all. Clink. Let's take a swig of coffee. Oops, got some in my mustache there. Good morning to you all. All right, let's read, then we'll unpack it. Here we go. Chapter 2. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. And the king said to me, "Why is your face sad, seeing you are not sick? This is nothing but sadness of heart." Then I was very much afraid, and I said to the king, "Let the king live forever. Why should not my face be sad when the city, the place of my father's graves, lies in ruins and its gates have been destroyed by fire?" Then the king said to me, "What are you requesting?" So I prayed to the God of heaven, and I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's graves, that I may rebuild it." And the king said to me, the queen sitting beside him, "How long will you be gone, and when will you return?" So it pleased the king to send me, when I had given him a time. When I had given him a time. And I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, let letters be given to me, to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they may let me pass through until I come to Judah, and to a letter of Asapha, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the fortress of the temple, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall occupy." And the king granted me what I asked, for the good hand of my God was upon me. Then I came to the governors of the province beyond the river and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent with me officers of the army and horsemen. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite servant heard this, it displeased them greatly that someone had come to seek the welfare of the people of Israel. So when I went to Jerusalem, I was there 3 days. Then I arose in the night, and I and a few men with me, and I told no one what my God had put into my heart to do for Jerusalem. There was no animal with me but the one on which I rode. I went out by night, by the valley of the gate to the dragon spring, and to the dung gate, and I inspected the walls of Jerusalem that were broken down, and its gates that had been destroyed by fire. Then I went up to the fountain gate, and to the king's pool, where there was no room for the animal that was under me to pass. Then I went up in the night by the valley, and inspected the wall, and I turned back and entered by the valley gate, and so returned. And the officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, and I had not yet told the Jews, the priests, the nobles, the officials, and the rest who were to do the work. Then I said to them, You see the trouble we are in, how Jerusalem lies in ruins with its gates burned. Come, let us build the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer suffer derision. And I told them of the hand of my God that had been on me for good, and also of the words that the king had spoken to me. And they said, let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for the good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite servant and Geshem the Arab heard of it, they jeered and despised us, said, what is this thing that you are doing? Are you rebelling against the king? Then I replied to them, the God of heaven will make us prosper, and we, his servants, will arise and build, but you have no portion or right or claim in Jerusalem. Nice. Okay, let's unpack. Those pesky Horonites. All right. We're learning our months in on the Jewish calendar, apparently, because yesterday we talked about what was the month of Kislev. Now they mentioned the month of Nisan. So what you have is Nisan falls between March and April. So again, the Jewish calendar goes by, it's a lunar calendar, not a solar calendar. That's why sometimes dates shift, and you may think, well, we're coming up on Hanukkah, or no, sometimes it shifts, and that's why. So what you have is Nehemiah is the cupbearer to the king, and he has never shown a sad face, so it's pretty easy to understand that the king might notice it when somebody comes in and they're downcast. So the king knows and understands right away. Now, one little thing about this exchange, and I think it's just wise, Nehemiah, he didn't immediately go into the significance of the Israelites returning to the land and Jerusalem and the temple. No, how did he appeal? If you look, it said, what I said to the king, then I said to the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my face be sad when the place of my father's graves lies in ruins and its gates have been destroyed by fire? That is a much more persuasive way to appeal to a pagan king. He didn't say, hey, the God of heaven told me to rebuild the temple and the walls, and we need to do that because we're going to be a nation on our own. And someday, you're going to have nothing to say about it. He didn't really say that, didn't lead with that. He led with something that a pagan king, Babylonian king, Persian king, they would have understood. Respect for the dead. My fathers. This is where my father's bones are lied. And there's nothing there. Gates are burned, the whole thing, right? Okay, so he leads with something that he knew that the king would relate to. And the king, I believe, moved by God, instantly doesn't, it's cool how he responds. Like this he must have been very, very perceptive, this king, because he skips the conversation altogether. He understands this is a faithful servant of mine. This guy, he's my cupbearer. That's a high office there. I mean, you're basically risking your life every day for somebody else. So, I mean, not that he had much choice, but that's a whole nother story. It would have come with respect. And so day after day after day, you've got Nehemiah there serving the king. They must have formed some kind of at least a working relationship that was good, or else the king would not have responded this way. So the king skips all the yada, yada, yada. He goes just basically, okay, what are you requesting? He just cuts to the chase, man. You got to love that. King live forever. The gates are in ruins. They're burned by fire. Family stuff. They're buried there. It's very, very sad. The king just says, okay, what do you want? What do you need? What are you requesting? And then he immediately just is flooded with the grace of God. Nehemiah is to make a request of the king. And all the king really wanted to know, isn't it funny that he looked at his wife? He kind of glanced over at his wife, or else it would not have been here to mention it. That, and the king said to me, and then in parentheses, the queen sitting beside him, end of parentheses, how long will you be gone and when will you return? That's all he asked. What do you need? Okay. When are you going? When are you coming back? And that tells me some things about this king that are interesting. If you read between the lines, he obviously cared enough about Nehemiah to allow him to go. Even though he's a servant, right? That speaks a little bit to who this king was. Now, another thing, he must have loved Nehemiah at least to a degree of, you're valuable to me, because otherwise, just get another slave in here to do this job. Who cares? No, he wanted to know when you're going, but when you're coming back. Because otherwise, he would have just been like, okay, go. Have fun. Knock yourself out. So Nehemiah must have been valuable to the king, and the king must have cared enough to want him back. Okay. So that's a little insight. Now, this is also, right here, this is straight up wisdom that was given to Nehemiah from God. This is so smart. So it pleased the king to send me when I had given him a time. And then, this is the wicked smart. I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let letters be given me to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they may let me pass through until I come to Judah, and a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest. Basically, what he was looking for was, I need your authority. If I'm going to go and do this and get back, I'm going to have to be able to cut through the red tape. And I am certain there's going to be people that don't want this to happen and or don't want me messing with their world. Can you imagine a guy just showing up saying, okay, yeah, I'm one of those Israelites. Yeah, from exile. And I need pretty much that 10 acres of hardwood. I need you to cut it down and have it delivered to Jerusalem. Ha! Sure. Yeah, like the king's servant's going to go, yeah, not a problem, man. Not a problem. Sure. Because if the guy was just lying, that means his head's gone. The king would kill him. If it was just some charlatan saying, hey, no, I need all this wood, cut it down, bring it over there. Right. So it was totally wisdom of God given to Nehemiah to ask for the king's authority. You mess with me? Here, this is what the king sent. There you go. You mess with me, you are crossing the king. You thwart me, it's your neck on the line. And that was smart. Now, instantly though, so he shows up and he's already made friends, right? He's already made friends. These guys, Sanballat, the Horonite, that just sounds like you don't want to have that guy over for dinner. Oops, I got fuzzy. Let me see if I can refocus. Yeah, there we go. He's, Sanballat, the Horonite. Geez, oh Pete's. He's the one with the shellfish intolerance, and he can't have peanut butter, and he can't have gluten, but you're supposed to provide him a 5-course meal. Right? He just sounds like you don't want to, he's not a good hang. Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arab. Now, here's something that instantly I picked up on. Obviously, there's bitterness here. Obviously, they are not happy about him showing up, and it says it. It's plain. When the governors gave him the king's letters, now the king had sent with them. Okay, but when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the Ammonite servants heard this, they were displeased greatly. Now, greatly displeased, that's different than regular displeased. And then we go on to see that they were basically trying to thwart what was going on without getting in trouble with the king. So, let me see if I could phrase this differently. Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arab. What things do they all three have in common? There's one thing that I wonder if you guys will pick up on. What one thing? Okay, they're in positions of power. Okay, they're definitely whatever they would be considered governors. Yeah, the governors of the province beyond the river. What is the thing that they all have in common? Anybody? I'll take another swig of coffee while I wait patiently. Anybody? They're foreigners. Yes, they are. But descendants of Esau? Yeah, I guess they would be. I don't know what a Horonite is, to be honest. You guys are getting, that's a really good one. They are foreigners. They are Arab. Okay. Well, here's where I was going with this. They're also conquered people. The Persians rolled in and they got rolled. They are a conquered people. So, can you imagine? Now, they've been allowed to set up local government. They've been allowed to do that. They're in the province beyond the river, and they're used to not being messed with. As long as you keep paying the king, you keep doing your thing, you send your tribute, everybody's fine, everybody's good, right? They're in charge locally. If Persia comes in and says, this is how it's going to be, then that's what they got to do. But they don't like that because, yeah, they got dominated. Yeah, they were a people who was defeated by probably Babylon first, then Persia. And now this king is establishing another defeated people here. Wait a minute. Why are you putting the Israelites in charge? No, you're establishing them as a people? Why not give us more aid? Why not do this for us? Come on, king. We could use 10 acres of hardwood. So, what you have here is a bunch of bitter people, bitter leaders, who are going to try to thwart whatever they can without really risking their necks. But they're going to come up against it. However, the good news is God's in charge, not King Artaxerxes. That's one of the things people forget is that Artaxerxes was only acting on what God told him to do. You know? He was only responding to what God said. Had God not been with Nehemiah, there's no way he would have let him leave. And furthermore, I think it's still worth bearing in mind, if he didn't care about him, he would have just said go. There would have been no return date. Why? Because there wouldn't have been a need for a return date. Ruth. Yeah, there was a lot of that. I wasn't going to get into the histories of the actual who conquered who, because that would take oh my gosh. But yeah, there's value in that. There's definitely value in knowing that this is one of those times where it could enrich it, but then you would have to go, well, this one beat up that one, and that one beat up this one, and this one took this one, and that one pushed that guy over there, and then it just gets crazy. You know, what's funny is I just honestly, I wish that all of these wars and rumors of wars would just all go away. I do. I don't see a need for the United States to be empire building. I don't like it. I mean, it's different if you're defending your own soil, your own country, to have a military that does that. That's reasonable. But to go and send the CIA in to topple this government, and then we push troops over that way, and we do this, and then with capitalism, we're just basically, it's goofy. It's goofy. I don't, it's so frustrating because, you know, the news tells you you're supposed to hate Vladimir Putin and the Russians, and you're supposed to love Ukraine and Zelensky. And yet, I've yet to meet a Russian, and I've met plenty of Russians, that I didn't get along with. You talk to them about their concerns, and they're the same concerns as your concerns, providing for their family, making sure that there's heat and electricity, food, same things. They want their kids to do better than they did. It's that the people that are, air quotes, above us, they tell you you're supposed to be angry at them because why? Well, I don't hate any Russians. Do you? Then why are we going to war with them? Because somebody said so. Anyway, I digress. I could easily go off on a tangent that I won't, because we'll never stop chatting, and the Bulletproof Pastor will have to start an hour or two later. So it's interesting how we just listen to our politicians who we know are liars and cheats and thieves, and we base our lives around their plans. Okay. I don't think that makes sense. I think maybe we need to start again thinking more eternal. Like, this place is just temporary. How do we please our Father in heaven, who is eternal? Right. Okay. That said, I brought up a different song for you guys to listen to during chat time. So let's pray, and then we'll chat. So, Father God, thank you so very much for your word. Thank you for Nehemiah's faithfulness and your mercy and grace and faithfulness in bringing them through. Jesus, we love you. Help us to be more like you today. Amen. Have a blessed day, guys. Bye.
Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. Up late, toiling for food to eat.